They laughed at humanity, not out of hatred, not out of fear, but out of pure amusement. Across the vast chambers of alien empires and the glowing halls of distant civilizations, the idea of humans became a quiet joke shared between powerful species. The reason was simple. Humans looked fragile, soft skin without armor, bones that could break, bodies that bled easily, lifespans so short they seemed almost meaningless compared to species that lived for centuries. To the ancient powers of the galaxy, humanity looked less like a rival and more like an evolutionary accident that had somehow wandered into space. From a distance, the judgment seemed logical. Strength in the galaxy had always been measured by physical superiority, by the durability of flesh, by the age of civilizations and the size of their fleets. By those standards, humanity ranked embarrassingly low. Compared to towering warrior species with hardened exoskeletons, humans looked weak. Compared to cold, calculating intelligences that could process thousands of strategies in seconds, humans seemed slow and emotional. Even their world looked hostile and chaotic. A blue planet, constantly battered by storms, earthquakes, diseases, and conflict. It seemed almost absurd that such a fragile species had survived long enough to reach the stars. So the laughter spread. Quiet at first, then louder as more civilizations discovered the same data. Observers studied human biology and shook their heads. Analysts reviewed human history and dismissed it as primitive. Generals examined human military capability and marked the species as insignificant. To them, humanity was not a threat. Humanity was an example. A reminder of what weak evolution looked like, a species destined to disappear the moment it encountered true power. But here is the truth that no one noticed in those moments of mockery. Fragility does not always mean weakness. Sometimes fragility hides something far more dangerous. Humans break, but they rebuild. Humans bleed, but they keep moving. Every limitation that seemed to define them had quietly forced them to develop something no alien species had ever truly needed: adaptation. The galaxy had grown comfortable in its strength. Civilizations that had ruled for thousands of years believed power was permanent. They believed superiority was stable. They believed evolution had already chosen its winners. Humanity, on the other hand, had never known stability. Their entire history had been a constant struggle against extinction. Ice ages had nearly erased them. Diseases had wiped out millions. Wars had reshaped their societies again and again. Yet every time disaster struck, humans learned something new. They adapted. They survived. And that difference mattered more than anyone realized. The moment the galaxy laughed at humanity was the moment it made its greatest mistake. Because underestimating humans has always been dangerous. They do not dominate through perfection, they dominate through persistence, through stubborn survival, through an ability to stand up again after every fall. The laughter echoed across the stars, but it carried a fatal blindness. No one asked the most important question. If a species this fragile managed to survive everything its own world threw at it, what would happen when that same species decided to fight back? The alien empires believed strength meant perfection. Perfect bodies designed by calm evolution, resilient skin that resisted damage, lifespans that stretched across centuries. Their worlds had been stable for ages, environments carefully balanced, and rarely violent. Survival had never been a desperate fight. It had been a predictable process, almost comfortable. Civilizations grew slowly, steadily, without the constant threat of extinction hanging over every generation. Humanity had never known that kind of peace. Earth was not a gentle world. It was a place where survival demanded constant struggle. Storms powerful enough to swallow entire cities formed over its oceans. Continents shifted beneath the ground, tearing landscapes apart in seconds. Diseases spread invisibly through populations, ending millions of lives before solutions were discovered. Even the climate itself could change dramatically, forcing species to either adapt or disappear forever. Humans evolved inside that chaos. Every generation faced challenges that could have ended the species completely. Food shortages, natural. Disasters, predators, and eventually wars between their own civilizations pushed humanity to the edge again and again. Survival was never guaranteed. Comfort was never permanent. Every solution created new problems, and every victory demanded another adaptation. This constant pressure shaped something powerful inside the human species. Instead of relying on physical superiority, humans developed resilience. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, they learned to survive imperfect ones. Their bodies might not have been the strongest in the galaxy, but their minds became flexible, creative, and relentless. While alien civilizations grew powerful through stability, humanity grew dangerous through struggle. A species raised in comfort expects peace. A species raised in chaos expects problems and prepares for them. That difference may seem small at first, but over time it becomes enormous. Because when hardship finally arrives, one civilization panics while the other simply adapts, and humanity had been adapting for thousands of years. The alien observers continued their analysis with cold precision. Data streams flowed through advanced systems, comparing the physical capabilities of humanity to those of established galactic species. Bone density was measured and found unimpressive. Muscle strength was calculated and ranked below dozens of known civilizations. Reaction speeds were recorded, and again the results seemed ordinary. Lifespan projections appeared almost laughable beside species that lived for centuries. By every measurable biological standard, humans were fragile. Charts confirmed it. Statistics reinforced it. Reports circulated through countless fleets and research stations, all reaching the same quiet conclusion. Humanity was weak. To advanced empires that trusted logic above all else, the numbers seemed undeniable. Wars had always been decided by strength, endurance, and superior technology. Species with tougher bodies dominated battlefields. Species with longer lifespans accumulated deeper knowledge. Civilizations that had existed for millennia possessed strategies refined through countless conflicts. Humanity, by comparison, looked young and poorly equipped for the brutal realities of interstellar competition. Yet something critical was missing from those calculations. Statistics can measure muscles, they can analyze bones, they can estimate the destructive capacity of weapons. But numbers struggle to measure the most unpredictable force in any conflict: willpower. Human history was filled with defeat. Empires had risen and collapsed repeatedly across their world. Battles had been lost. Nations had fallen. Entire populations had faced devastation. From a purely statistical perspective, humanity should have disappeared many times over. There were countless moments when extinction seemed not only possible, but inevitable. But humans had a peculiar relationship with failure. Defeat rarely ended their story. Instead, it became the beginning of a new chapter. Loss forced reflection. Mistakes produced lessons. Every collapse exposed weaknesses that could be corrected the next time. Over centuries, this pattern created a strange advantage. Humans became incredibly efficient at learning from disaster. Most species avoided failure whenever possible. Humans evolved alongside it. That difference quietly reshaped their mentality. Losing a battle did not automatically mean losing a war. Falling behind did not guarantee permanent defeat. Setbacks became temporary obstacles rather than final endings. And once a species begins to view failure as part of progress, it becomes extremely difficult to stop. The alien empires had gathered impressive amounts of data about humanity. They understood human biology, technology, and even fragments of their history. But the conclusions they drew came from incomplete understanding. They had studied the numbers. They had never studied the mindset. The first invasion unfolded exactly as the alien strategists had predicted. Massive fleets emerged from the darkness of space and surrounded Earth with overwhelming precision. Ships the size of cities cast enormous shadows across the planet, their engines burning like artificial suns against the night sky. Advanced weapon systems locked onto every known defense grid, every satellite, every military installation. Within moments, the balance of power became painfully clear. Human defenses activated quickly, but the difference in technology was undeniable. Ancient orbital stations that had once symbolized progress were erased in seconds. Planetary shields collapsed under weapons humanity had never encountered before. Communication networks struggled to keep up as systems failed one after another. Across the planet, people looked to the sky and witnessed something their species had feared for generations. An enemy far more advanced had arrived. From the perspective of the alien commanders observing the operation, the outcome appeared inevitable. Human resistance scattered quickly. Defensive fleets attempted to organize counterattacks, only to be dismantled by weapons centuries ahead of their own. Strategic targets across the planet fell with alarming speed. Entire regions lost power, communication, and protection within hours. Everything unfolded according to the predictions made long before the first alien ship entered the system. Victory seemed obvious. The reports arriving at alien command centers confirmed their expectations. Human military forces were overwhelmed. Infrastructure was collapsing. Civilizations that had taken centuries to build were breaking apart in a matter of days. The fragile species was responding exactly the way weaker civilizations always responded, when faced with superior force. Confusion spread. Panic followed. Collapse appeared unavoidable. Yet beneath the chaos, something subtle began to happen. Human resistance did not disappear. Instead of vanishing completely, scattered groups began reorganizing. Surviving military units regrouped in unexpected locations. Engineers and scientists who had lost entire research facilities continued working with whatever equipment remained. Small defensive networks started forming where none had existed before. Cities that had been devastated became centers of quiet coordination. To outside observers, it still looked like defeat. The alien fleets continued advancing, dismantling human defenses with ruthless efficiency. Strategic objectives continued falling. Entire regions remained under enemy control. The imbalance of power had not changed, but something else had begun to change. While alien commanders celebrated the speed of their conquest, humanity was doing something far more dangerous than resisting. Humanity was learning. Every destroyed weapon revealed new information. Every alien system captured or recovered from the battlefield became a source of study. Patterns in enemy tactics slowly emerged through careful observation. Weaknesses that had been invisible during the first days of the invasion gradually became clearer. The aliens believed the war was nearly finished. Humanity had just begun adapting. The galaxy had always believed that power came from superiority. Stronger bodies, better armor, longer lifespans, and advanced technology were the foundations of dominance among the stars. Civilizations spent centuries perfecting their systems, refining their weapons, and building fleets designed to enforce that power. Once those systems were established, they rarely changed. Stability became the foundation of their strength. Humanity approached problems differently. While alien forces relied on strategies perfected over hundreds of years, humans had grown used to solving problems under pressure. Their history had never allowed long periods of stability. Technology changed rapidly, sometimes within a single generation. Entire industries transformed in decades. Methods that worked yesterday were often replaced tomorrow by something more effective. That habit of constant change became one of the most dangerous advantages humanity possessed. The invasion forced that mindset into overdrive. Across Earth, scientists, engineers, and soldiers examined every piece of alien equipment they could recover. Damaged weapons, fragments of armor, abandoned drones, even broken communication devices became valuable sources of information. Human researchers did not wait for perfect laboratories or complete understanding. They experimented immediately. Mistakes were expected, failures were common, but each attempt revealed something new. Improvised solutions began appearing everywhere. Human engineers combined alien components with their own technology in ways the invaders had never considered. Weapons originally designed for completely different purposes were modified and repurposed. Defensive systems that had been obsolete weeks earlier were suddenly upgraded using alien materials. Factories damaged during the first attacks were rebuilt into smaller, faster production centers capable of adapting designs overnight. Alien commanders noticed something strange. Human resistance was no longer predictable. Strategies that had worked perfectly during the first phase of the invasion suddenly stopped working. Defensive responses changed from one battle to the next. New weapons appeared without warning. Tactics evolved so quickly that alien fleets struggled to adjust. Plans designed months in advance were becoming obsolete in days. This was something the alien empires had never truly faced before. Most civilizations developed slowly, improving their technology over centuries. Humanity improved under pressure. When survival was threatened, innovation accelerated dramatically. War forced rapid evolution in ways peace never could. The fragile species was no longer fighting with the same tools it had used at the beginning of the invasion. It was creating new ones faster than the enemy could understand them, and the balance of the war was quietly beginning to shift. Alien commanders began noticing patterns that defied logic. Human soldiers continued to fight even when every outcome seemed predetermined. Entire squads advanced toward objectives that had been deemed impossible to reach. They endured losses that would have caused other species to retreat or surrender. Casualties mounted, yet morale did not falter. Orders were not always followed rigidly, yet their actions became strangely effective, coordinated in ways alien minds struggled to comprehend. The behavior was unpredictable. It did not follow the algorithms of survival or the cold logic of efficiency that the aliens had relied upon for centuries. Humans fought not only for themselves but for something far less tangible. Protecting civilians, defending homes, preserving ideas and ideals, these were forces the aliens had never accounted for. To them, survival had always been a matter of self-preservation, of resources and strength. Human survival operated on a different plane altogether, one that mixed emotion, instinct, and sheer stubbornness. Every failed assault seemed to fuel the humans further. Each time a strike hit harder than expected, they learned, they adjusted, they returned stronger, faster, more focused. Alien technology, so advanced it had always guaranteed victory, became the instrument of human progress. Weapons captured from fallen ships were analyzed and repurposed. Tactics designed to subdue humanity became lessons for adapting counterattacks. What had been a predictable, fragile species turned into a force that evolved in real time, reshaping the battlefield with every encounter. The aliens had underestimated the most dangerous trait of humanity: resilience. Not strength, not speed, not intellect alone, but the refusal to yield when all odds were stacked against them. Fear did not cripple them, it sharpened their focus. Pressure did not break them, it transformed them. Every species in the galaxy that had relied solely on predictable measures of power now realized a shocking truth. A species that fights for ideals rather than convenience becomes almost impossible to destroy. And as the humans pressed on, the initial confidence of the invaders slowly gave way to doubt. Every victory they had predicted vanished beneath waves of adaptive responses and relentless persistence. What began as a campaign against a weak species was slowly turning into a confrontation with an enemy the galaxy had never fully anticipated. Months stretched into years, and the war spread across star systems like wildfire. Alien fleets that had once dominated unchallenged were met with resistance that no strategy had prepared them for. Every engagement revealed something new about humanity's unpredictable nature. Fleets that had once been shattered within hours were now repelled, redirected, or destroyed in ways that confounded the most seasoned commanders. Human forces did not just fight, they evolved. Every setback became a lesson, every mistake a stepping stone. What had begun as scattered resistance now formed organized networks of offense and defense across the galaxy. The alien laughter that once filled command chambers grew quieter. Reports no longer predicted easy victories. They now carried warnings, hints of unease. Human technology, once primitive compared to the invaders, began matching or even surpassing expectations. Ships modified from salvaged alien parts carried weapons that could outmaneuver entire squadrons. Defense systems reconfigured themselves overnight. Strategies shifted from predictable patterns to improvisational genius that left alien generals scrambling. The fragile species that had once been dismissed had transformed into something formidable, relentless, and terrifying. The galaxy began to understand the third truth about humanity. They were not finished. Evolution did not end with them. Unlike empires that relied on centuries of accumulated strength, humans changed with every challenge. Pressure forced them to adapt, failure honed their instincts, and every encounter reshaped their strategies. What appeared weak on paper was a species constantly upgrading itself in ways that no mathematical model could predict. The aliens who had thought they understood humanity now faced something entirely different. They were not fighting the same species they had mocked at the beginning of the conflict. They were confronting a version of humanity forged in fire, sharpened by survival, and made stronger by every attack. Every expectation they had brought to the battlefield was rendered obsolete by relentless adaptation. The fragile humans of Earth had become a force no one in the galaxy could ignore. And in realizing this, every alien empire understood a terrifying fact. Underestimating humans had been their greatest mistake. The alien empires finally began to recognize a truth they had ignored for far too long. They had measured human bodies, analyzed their technology, and calculated their numbers, but they had overlooked the most dangerous factor of all: potential. Strength, they realized, is static. It can be quantified, studied, and anticipated. Potential, however, is limitless. It grows under pressure, adapts to challenges, and accelerates in ways that no calculation can predict. Humanity had entered the war as prey, underestimated and dismissed. Yet under the relentless pressure of invasion, it transformed at a pace that no alien empire could match. Every hardship became a catalyst. Weak muscles became stronger through effort and adaptation. Broken technology was not discarded but upgraded into new, unpredictable innovations. Fear, instead of halting action, became determination, turning ordinary individuals into formidable strategists and fighters. Alien fleets that had assumed victory now faced an opponent evolving faster than they could comprehend. Every tactic the invaders used to secure dominance was met with ingenuity, improvisation, and an unyielding will to survive. The galaxy had thought it was dealing with a fragile species. What it failed to see was that humanity was unfinished, still growing, still evolving. Each encounter, each skirmish, each disaster became part of a process that refined, strengthened, and sharpened humanity. The very act of being attacked accelerated evolution. What the aliens had hoped would be an easy conquest instead became the crucible that forged a more powerful, more dangerous species. And in that revelation, panic spread among alien commanders. A species that had once seemed insignificant was now unpredictable, adaptive, and relentless. Their previous calculations were worthless, their strategies obsolete, and their confidence shattered. The galaxy discovered a staggering truth. Humans were not fragile. They were unfinished work. Every attack had made humanity stronger, every threat had made it smarter, and every miscalculation had made it more dangerous. The very actions meant to destroy humanity had accelerated its evolution. The aliens had not conquered Earth. They had upgraded it, unwittingly preparing humanity to become a force that no empire could ignore. By the end of the war, the galaxy looked unrecognizable. Alien fleets that had once filled the skies with power now burned in orbit, shattered and scattered. Empires that had ruled star systems for millennia collapsed under pressure they had never anticipated. Entire civilizations retreated in fear, not because humanity was the strongest species by conventional measures, but because it had proven relentless, adaptive, and impossible to predict. The fragile species that had once been dismissed as insignificant had become the most dangerous force in the stars. The lesson spread quickly across every corner of the galaxy. Appearances were deceptive. Kindness could mask ferocity. Weakness, on paper, could hide unstoppable resilience. No empire could rely solely on strength, armor, or longevity when facing a species that thrived under pressure. Humanity had taught the galaxy that survival was not about perfection, but persistence. Failure was not an end but a tool, a lesson, a blueprint for growth. Every setback had become a step forward, every defeat a preparation for the next challenge. Alien commanders, strategists, and scholars began revising their understanding of the universe. The humans' ability to endure catastrophe, adapt rapidly, and evolve in real time shattered centuries of assumptions. Their technology, once considered primitive, now incorporated lessons drawn from the most advanced alien systems. Their tactics had grown unpredictable, fluid, and effective, challenging the rigid strategies that had once dominated interstellar warfare. Every engagement reinforced one immutable fact: humanity did not yield. The galaxy finally realized the harshest truth of all. Never underestimate a species that has survived extinction, endured millennia of struggle, and turned adversity into strength. Humans may appear fragile, but fragility can conceal something far more dangerous than brute force. It hides endurance, ingenuity, and the ability to rise stronger from every fall. In the end, victory did not belong to those who seemed strongest. It belonged to those who refused to quit, who adapted faster than anyone could anticipate, and who transformed weakness into power. Humanity had become a warning to every civilization in the stars. A species underestimated is a species unstoppable. Now the galaxy's lesson becomes personal. A species born on a world of storms, earthquakes, and relentless chaos survived every challenge it faced. Mocked for weakness, attacked by superior forces, and written off by those who thought themselves powerful, it endured. That species is humanity. Every hardship forged resilience. Every failure built strength. Every impossible situation became a training ground. What the universe once considered fragile became unstoppable. This is not a story of distant battles or alien empires. It is the story of the species you are part of, the legacy you inherit. The same drive that allowed humans to survive millennia of extinction pulses through your life today. The same instinct that turns despair into determination is alive in your mind. Weakness is an illusion. Limits exist only until they are tested. Every challenge is an opportunity to evolve, to grow, to become something stronger than yesterday. The galaxy discovered a truth that applies to everyone. Surviving is not about avoiding pressure. It is about using pressure to transform. Every setback, every failure, every moment that feels impossible contains the seed of progress. Those who endure, adapt, and refuse to surrender are never defeated. Strength is forged, not granted. Growth is earned, not inherited. So stop underestimating your own potential. Stop thinking struggle is a sign you cannot succeed. Every challenge you face is a battlefield. Every obstacle is an opportunity to prove your resilience. The universe once underestimated humans, and it paid the ultimate price. Do not make the same mistake with yourself. Rise, adapt, persist. Take action today. Like, subscribe, and join a community that refuses to settle for mediocrity. Humanity rises not because it is perfect, but because it refuses to quit. And the next time someone or something doubts your strength, remember this: fragility is temporary, resilience is eternal, and you were built to survive the impossible.